Weird. Part infinity.
Have you ever run away from the cops? Would you like to? If your answer is yes, this is your chance. Sherwood Police is inviting the community for a game of hide and seek where armed officers will try to tag you as you run from them in the dark of night.
No. Hell no. No. I could see that ending. Nope. That ain't gonna end right. It can't end right.
Most of my life, and always figured that we lived in a slave plantation mentality, and having been a slave for 8 years on installment plan, I've seen it up front. I've called you about the FEMA camps we got in Georgia. There's 15 or so, plus God knows how many around the world, but they're criminalizing homelessness and such. They got the slave plantation bunch out there with slave catchers locking people up for being homeless and one thing and another. The prison industrial complex, now that you're a slave, you can build furniture and you can pick cotton. I've gotten in on that. There's some different things. And I thought this was strictly a Republican thing, but when something was said about emptying some of the prisons in California, Kamala Harris allowed that they required that prison labor to help support their habits. And you got the police is lined up, your slave catchers is lined up, armed to the damn teeth. They're criminalizing everything. Down here we call it taxation through citation.
Yep. It's also, it not only generates revenue, it also, if you can selectively prosecute people, it prevents them from voting in most of your Confederate states.
Yeah, well, then they charge the taxpayers $200-300 a day for the privilege.
Yeah.
What we've got here, it's just ugly. I mean, it's on the order of the California fires. This thing is so huge.
Yeah.
The police are completely unhinged. I mean, there's no, the court systems are jammed up. I got young and set in 100 days, ain't been charged with nothing. I don't see where we go from here. I mean, we need to identify that we got an issue, but
well, they're building camps now. I mean, I've never seen any actual evidence that there's a FEMA camp, Michael, outside of outside of places for refugees.
When they start picking up these,
but let me finish my thought here. But the Trump administration is planning on building a whole new set of prison complexes, and they're acquiring land. So far, apparently, they've acquired land in Louisiana and Texas. And what they're going to use those for, I'm thinking that this is the beginning of a Dachau kind of thing where they put their political prisoners away. We'll see. That's pretty extreme, but I think that's a possibility, Michael.
Well, my brother-in-law was one of the ones that financed some of the stuff here in Georgia. He was with the Cobb County Police Department. He run around the country building these things. But the thing is, when they start picking up all these Mexicans and these different people that are undesirables, the homeless and whatnot, and filling these camps up, we're going to have the biggest slave plantation on earth.
Yeah.
Right
back to our roots, right?
Yeah, but we got. I don't know how we deal with this, but you got to know your enemy. And unfortunately, this is quite literally on the scale of the California fires.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there's no way I can see to put it out.
I get your concern, Michael. Michael, thank you for the call.
That the removal of this clear and simple language condemning white supremacy reveals that the true purpose of this bill is to teach our students a whitewashed version of American history?
No, absolutely not.
It reads like a how-to guide in historical whitewashing. Are you aware that this new version of the bill from the Senate removes the writings of Frederick Douglass?
I am.
Are you aware that this new version of the bill from the Senate removes the writings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.?
Yes.
Are you aware that this new version of the bill from the Senate removes the history of Native Americans? Yet the new version of the bill from the Senate, this is not the bill we all passed as a House, but the Senate's version, it still includes the writings of Alexis de Tocqueville, and he's not even an American. Could that be because he's a white man? By my count, the new version from the Senate, again, this is not the bill we passed as the House. This is the bill from the Senate. It removes 9 historical figures of color and 6 female historical figures from the bill, which means that all mentions of people of color or women have been removed from this bill. Is that correct?
I'll take your word for it, Representative.
Could an example?
4 hours after the election of Donald Trump, many black folks received the most insane, craziest, and insensitive text message. Guess what it said? Greetings. You have been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Be ready at 12 a.m. November 13, 2024, sharp with your belongings. Our exclusive slaves will come get you in a brown van. Be prepared to be searched upon arrival to plantation. No personal belongings allowed. This is a fresh start. You are plantation group D. What? Picking cotton in the 21st century? This racist message was sent to mostly young professionals and college students, which, if it stayed at that, would have been, an out-of-line prank, dark humor, racist joke. Because let's face it, hand-picking cotton is a thing of the past. It's economic foolishness. The U.S. has been using machines since the 1930s. But the fact that this message was also sent to high schoolers and kids in middle school makes it disgusting and disturbing.
21, when I said this, here we have a rich white subdivision in the city of Baton Rouge that wants to separate itself and become its own city because it's tired of sharing its wealth with the poor blacks across town. They say that creating the city of St. George has absolutely nothing to do with race. They just want to create their own schools and communities and effectively resegregate the city. Keep in mind, this is Louisiana. We left America to help create another country called the Confederate, whose foundation was based on the belief that black people should be enslaved to white people forever. Well, on April 26, 2024, the Louisiana Supreme Court ruled in favor of white supremacists and allowed them to secede from the city of Baton Rouge and create their own whites-only city known as the city of St. George. Their reasoning behind it? Because they filled out all the paperwork, so I guess we have to honor it. And that just isn't happening here in the state of Louisiana. It's happening across the South. You see, our governor, Jeff Landry, is working in connection with other governors across the states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida to help them create whites-only cities as well. And their plan for 2025 is to, in essence, revive the Confederate. This is what we're dealing with.
To execute between 70 and 80,000. We plan to evacuate between 70 and 80,000 people. We plan to execute between 70 and 80,000. We plan to evacuate between 70 and 80,000 people.